The Real Morgan News Network, YouTube channel. So can you beat Kingdom Rush Origins on Impossible with just Forest Keepers and Bruce? Hello everybody, this is going to be a frickin' rough one. First time playing on Impossible, and at the time of writing this, I'm genuinely not sure. This is my first time, so I don't really know what to expect. I'm told you can't rush as much on Impossible, but I still find myself rushing. So I learned this lesson the hard way during this challenge. Of course, the way I always do. As levels get harder, you need to memorize the waves more, or at least like one or two of the hard waves that you need to time your lightning perfectly with. So anyways, I really like this challenge though. This is obviously extremely heavily influenced by Shy Guy Mask. His first challenge that really inspired me, I owe everything in this challenge to him. The first challenge that just made me ecstatic about playing these games again and finally say to myself, you could do these crazy challenges for Kingdom Rush, and maybe a few towers can do it. So anyways, his very first challenge that really influenced me was the one about beating Kingdom Rush Origins with just barracks or just ally units. And he used a lot of Forest Keepers in that challenge because he had this idea, which has really rejuvenated the entire Kingdom Rush community. Yeah, I keep losing on this level. I'm aware of that. I'm just trying to make a point. We finally make it to the boss in this attempt. Bruce is actually pretty sweet. He's pretty bulky. But anyways, I'm really appreciative that Shy Guy Mask alone is responsible for just bringing this community and these games back from the dead. So thanks, dude. These games are awesome. There's so many of us. There's probably millions that are obsessed with these games. They just need to be reawakened, re-tapped into. But anyways, guys, this level, obviously my favorite level in my favorite game. The hyena, every time he slams the ground, look at that. He just wipes out all your units. But we can stall him so much that Bruce just bleeding him to death and shooting lightning rods at him and everything, we take him down. Not too shizzle shabby. Frickin' awesome. We're finally done with that level. We lost many times. It was barely possible. Whew. Playing on Impossible is rough. It hasn't been impossible yet, but it's starting to get more tricky. Some of these enemies, normally they would have low or medium armor. Now they'll have medium or high armor, or their HP will raise from 700 to 1,000 or 1,100 HP. It's ridiculous. Probably some of the more difficult enemies to deal with on Impossible are the freaking harassers, the Twilight harassers, because I believe they switched to medium difficulty. And we finally get the Forest Keepers! Huzzah! Now I'm going to agree with Shy Guy Mask that the barracks in this game are really overpowered. They all have really good armor, which is just, that's enough compared to the other games. In the other games, they always had low armor unless they're fully upgraded as Templars or Paladins or something like that. But all of the barracks have pretty good armor in this, especially with all of your upgrades. So they're a bit more broken in that regard alone. But to break the game even further, the devs decided to give them all bows and arrows starting at level 2 barracks. I really like this. It makes some cool challenges possible. But yeah, the barracks, they're necessary in this game, and I would say they're a bit broken. They're probably the best tower in this game. In fact, I would say that the best tower in the entire game, it's got to be Forest Keepers. It's not like they're so overpowered that they just make it insanely easy. Who am I kidding? They kind of are. But they can do everything. They cost a medium amount of gold. They slow down an area while damaging with their Vine ability. They heal areas with their healing ability, the Circle of Life or whatever. And they do 160 true damage with their spear throws that they throw, I think, every 3 seconds. That is absurd. Now, combining Forest Keepers with Forest Keepers works extremely well, because then you just have this group of just massive AoE affecting just ridiculousness. they're amazing. I do think that Forest Keepers, in some circumstances, actually pair better with the Blade Singers, but just spamming Forest Keepers is awesome. It's insane damage, slowing areas, while healing themselves ridiculously. Now, something that I would like to look into, and you guys who are smarter or know more about this game than me, which is a lot of you because I'm just some newbie, you know that there's probably an untapped variable that most people don't talk about in this game. And I'm talking about the timing of abilities of when you build a tower. More specifically, if I want to build like 2 or 3 Forest Keepers, let's say they throw their spears every 3 seconds. So what if I built a tower at the perfect time so that I can maximize spear throwage? I want it to be regular and spread out. What does this mean? You build your first Forest Keeper, you wait for him to throw the spear, you build your next one and upgrade the spear in such a way that you get spears being thrown every 1.5 seconds because you have 2 throwing them offset, You know what I'm saying, right? I'm doing a terrible job explaining this, but I really want to look into this variable because it might be one of the reasons why all of us can do better sometimes and fail horribly, miserably sometimes. Just the timing of purely building a tower might really determine a lot. Now, I think a lot is left to RNG, things that we don't think about. I think one of the biggest parts of RNG that none of us think about is where do the extra lightning bolts hit when you use your lightning spell? Or where do the extra rain of fire droplets drop when you're using your freaking meteors in the other games? I think those things can make or break difficult challenges. And if you don't agree, then fight me. Yeah, but there's a lot of RNG that we're just used to, or even just the fact that, like, you could go through an entire level, and what if your Forest Keepers, or whatever you're using, let's say there's no upgrades, and your tower at the minimum range does 24 damage, but at the maximum range does, like, 40 damage. Well, what if, in general, like 75% of the time throughout the entire level, the average amount of damage that tower did was on the low end? Like, the average was like 24, 25, 26. And then you play the level again, and their average is way more toward the upper end, and you get an average of like 35 to 40. That's like 1.5 times the damage. You can't tell me that's going to not make a significant difference in the way that you're playing that level. So these kind of things matter, but we can't control the RNG as far as I know. I haven't heard of any RNG manipulation quite yet. I have heard of one that the channel Vadook has brought up, and we're thinking about collaborating and making an interesting video on that. But that's in the future, okay? Anyways, Forest Keepers are crushing everything in this. This is the first time I've ever used Bruce, and I actually really like Bruce. He's probably, his bleeding ability is more like an archer type of thing, since all of the archers, as you know I'm obsessed with, have the bloodletting upgrade that you can spend your star upgrades on, and they can make things bleed profusely. Bruce does that too. But why did I pick Bruce for this challenge? I was originally going to pick him with arcane archers, but he's not an archer, so it just wouldn't be as cool. I picked him with this because these Forest Keepers kind of seem like they're just these hairy beasts. And Bruce is clearly a hairy beast. He's a werelion, for frickin' crying out loud. So he fits in well. And you know what? We already used Brave Bark on the Just Weirdwood challenge. So you can go watch that if you want to see Brave Bark. But yeah, you could do this challenge with just Brave Bark. But I wanted to use Bruce. And with him doing all this true damage and, all of the things that he does, it's pretty cool. He's pretty terrible on iOS, but he's a lot better on Steam. He's not S tier or anything, but I like Bruce. I have a respect for him. He's a great duelist. He does not die easily. Here we are, though, guys. We are fighting the Spider Goddess. We're taking her down. I have no doubt that we're going to beat her, even though she has, 23,000 HP. I can't see it from this distance. It's freaking too small. But yeah, she's taken a long time to go down. But we have so much true damage being thrown at her. The big advantage of spamming barracks is that you just get massive crowd control. And this is how we defeat the Spider Goddess. Booyah, baby! So can you beat Kingdom Rush Origins on Impossible with just Forest Keepers and Bruce? Double, triple, quadruple, frick yeah! Man, I love these challenges. I love you guys. Keep sending your art, your memes. It's all great. Like and subscribe or something, nerds!